This video was sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the high-grade, correct century, Turn A Gundam from the anime of the exact same name. Now, I've never once before watched this anime. I watched a couple of the episodes while building this kit, and I have to say, if you've never seen it, you should check it out, especially if you're tired of the same old, tried and true Gundam tropes. It's a completely different watching experience. Personally, I was always just put off by the Mustache Gundam right here, but after watching a little bit of the show, I already adore this design. But anyway, that is enough about that. If you have not watched it, you should check it out. And anyway, on to the review. So here is the high-grade Turn A Gundam out of the box, snapped together with a little bit of extra effort. And I have to say, this is one impressive high-grade. It's actually a lot better than I was anticipating, and yet another older high-grade that has blown me away. Once again, this design right here is a very unusual design for a Gundam mobile suit, but that's easily explainable by the fact that this right here was designed by the late Sid Mead, famous for a lot of technical designs from famous movies like Alien and Blade Runner. And honestly, when you do take that into consideration, you can kind of see the unique meld of flavors here, and that is pretty cool. Out of the box, this kit definitely looks fantastic, but there's so much going on the surface that I had to panel line it, so that is the little bit of effort that I did put in. And as usual, I just use these panel lining markers right here. These are just those Gundam markers, the fine tip Sumi-Ire type, and basically I use brown on the yellow, and black and grey on everything else. Black where I wanted the lines to stand out a lot, and grey on ones that I didn't want to stand out too much. And that right there is what it turned out like, and I think this thing looks spectacular. In general, the colors in the mold on this kit are beyond impressive. One thing I love are these kind of bladed, I assume, thruster sections around in the backs of the legs. These look so cool and are so intricate, but still at the same time, technically are very simply produced. On top of that, this thing is as solid as a rock, which is awesome. As for the color separation on this kit, you get pretty much everything that you're seeing right here, bar a couple of things, like the eyes, which are the biggest letdown to me when it comes to the mobile suit. This right here is the sheet of stickers, and at first glance it can look a little bit overkill, but it's not so bad. A lot of the red is actually for on that rifle. Those black ones there, those are kind of the stripes on the arms and legs. These slot in so well that you wouldn't even notice that they're there. And the only real killer is the big old eye sticker and that little symbol for up on the forehead. Besides those though, it does look amazing. As for that little symbol up on the forehead, I decided to paint that because it was such a shame to actually cover it up, because that is actual molded detail on the forehead. So what I did with that is I just painted that with a little bit of Citadel's Mood Green. Personally, I'm not great at fine detail, so I kind of just blobbed it on there, wiped off the excess, and if there was anything messy, I lightly sanded it off with very high grit, low grit. Which grit is high and which grit is low? Answer that in the comments. With 2000 grit sandpaper. It worked out pretty well for someone who can't paint those sorts of things very well. And the last thing I'm going to point out on this absolutely fantastic looking high grade is this pretty literal cockpit right here. So this looks great. It's got a clear piece on top. We've got an ever so tiny little Loran in there. I did scribble behind him with a bit of black panel liner, scribbled him up with some brown panel liner, and then just kind of wiped away the excess just so he was a little bit more prominent in there. But still, the detail, once again, on this kid is phenomenal.
Hey, I'm Spooky the Neck Gremlin, and I'm taking time out from my hobbies of data theft, tracing, surveillance, and commercial targeting to count down the 5 times my plans have been foiled by Rin and that meddling Surfshark VPN.
5!
Every time I think I'm locked onto her location using her IP address, she disappears without a single trace using Surfshark's multi-hop. She's taking footprint masking to a whole nother level. Damn it!
4!
This one time, when I was engaging in my routine,
Cybercrime!
I was so close to stealing every red cent of her life savings, but she used her trap card, which was Surfshark VPN, to secure her crypto assets. All her Dogecoin was not belong to me.
3!
When that Spitz thought she had me on the ropes, she was wrong, because I, Spooky, knew her secret passion. Streaming one of her Japanese animes on unofficial free websites. So I activated my nefarious ads. How could she resist? But no! Surfshark and its clean web foiled my plans again! My ads, gone forever!
2!
When I thought all was lost, I finally got a ping on her IP address. It was time for me to settle this once and for all in person. But bamboozled again I was. Using Surfshark VPN, she had changed her location to China, trapping me in a world of controlled internet. Damn it!
1.
On returning to my fortress of solitude to consolidate my losses, that Spitz tried to kick me while I was down by putting a bounty on my head. A price a Mandalorian bounty hunter came to collect.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Haha! Thankfully, that Razor Crest didn't have Surfshark VPN installed, so I tracked him using my malware and greeted him with a urine landmine.
What the? Is that dog pee? I knew I should have worn shoes. I'm not getting paid enough for this. I'm going home.
Ha! Good luck getting the smell of dog pee out of Beskar, loser! Man, if only there was some way to get all this protection with 84% off and 4 extra months for free. Oh wait, there is! By clicking that link in the description and using the code Mecha.
So now moving on to the accessories, and here's the high-grade Turn A Gundam with absolutely everything that it comes with. And this comes with quite a few bits, and for the most part, they're all pretty awesome. So the general breakdown is the standard beam rifle, beam sabers, and a shield. But besides that, we've got an alternate chest and back, a couple of adapters, an alternate crotch, a pair of holding hands, which mean we do have extra widespread open hands, which is something I always love, and lastly, an alternate extended stock for the beam rifle. First up is the hands, and like I mentioned, we have alternate hands, very nicely detailed, widespread. That's pretty much it. Next up then, in here we've got a standard looking set of beam sabers, but the handle is actually quite unique. So it has a whole lot of detail, and you'll notice there is a slot there for holding it. So love it or hate it, this does mean you do have to disassemble the hands in order to attach the beam sabers. You can't just stick them on in there. However, this does mean it holds onto them absolutely ironclad-like, so they ain't going anywhere, and that's awesome. When these are not in use, it's the usual pop out the beam, and these can then be stored up here in these little adapter segments up on the back of the shoulders. Next up then in here is the beam rifle, and this is pretty plain for the most part. The red sections on this, all of that is just stickers, and I will mention that they are a little bit on the hard side to apply. Even though I did try to take a lot of care while attaching these on, I still found it was hard to get them to go all the way around and not leave that little bit of a gap, so I do recommend grabbing some basic red paint and painting these up. This does have an alternate stock, pull that off, stick this one on, it's longer, has a handle dial around here. Just like we saw with the beam sabers, this attaches into the hands the exact same way, nice and secure I might add, and there's a bit of an example of what it looks like equipped onto the Turn A Gundam. Next up then in here is the shield, and this is very nice. Even from the front we've got a lot of surface detail, 3 layers of color, that's red, white and grey, that is all plastic. Flipping all the way around to the other side, and we've got that grey, red and white again, and the underneath surface is so nicely detailed. Also, I will mention there's white polycaps in this kit, which is interesting and kind of rare. This just attaches onto the back of either or arm, and this does attach on very, very solidly, but I will mention it is a bit on the bulky side and can be a bit hard to pose at times, but still, it holds on great, it looks great, and it's great. So one thing I really do adore about this kit are the stellar storage options. So if you pop off these particular bits for holding onto the beam sabers, then pop on these alternate variants, this one and this one, then we're actually able to store all the equipment on the Turn A Gundam at the same time. To do this, you just collapse these white sections on the back of the shield, flip in the handle on the beam rifle, and then they all attach on like this. This is something I love when you can put next to everything on a mobile suit for display. That makes me extremely, extremely happy. So as well as what we've seen so far, we also have alternate chest and back segments. So first off, we have the standard one right here. I did find this very loose out of the box. I'm not sure if that was my own fault, so I just took some of the black stickers and stuck them on the sides to tighten it up a bit. But the rear one I've had absolutely no issue with whatsoever. Actually, there we go. So the alternate parts are this back piece here for the nanomachine Sun, and this one here which is part of the multi-use silo that is its chest, and those are some missiles. As you can see, if I pop this side by side with the pictures we see in the instructions, these are not color accurate. There's the front, there is the back, so if you want these to look perfect, you're gonna have to get yourself some gray paint. The last thing then we have in here is this, once again, not color accurate core fighter. This is nice for display if you paint it up. But I will mention it's got the dumbest little adapter segment in the bottom. Instead of being the standard 3mm hole, it needs this adapter for using with an action base that, like, literally nothing uses. Strange. So now moving on to the articulation, and like I've mentioned already, this thing is solid as a rock. The only thing that ever pops off on me is this particular wrist for some reason, but besides that, nothing else gives me any issues whatsoever. At the neck we've the standard polycap, so that's that giggity 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 goo. There's it looking all the way up, all the way down. Be careful with the mustache so you don't break it. I also did snip off the safety nubs, just in case you're wondering. This kit does not use the generic shoulder polycaps. Instead we have a peg that can move forward and back ever so slightly. You'll also notice that the shoulder armor at the back is affixed to the torso itself. It's only the front section that actually goes on like so. This can rotate forward and back just on its axis, and the shoulder just attaches on with the standard, probably number 1 polycap. So what we get from that is a little bit of forward and back. There it is all the way up. Very nice. You get back where you should. And because the back part is fixed, that means you can only raise the arm as far as about there before everything starts to clash. Oh yeah, and that's it. Out to the back. This little shoulder blade, or whatever you want to call it, can move in and out ever so slightly, but not enough to get you anything more than that. So even though this kit is rocking a fairly unusual torso, it's still rocking the exact same ball joint, and we've only got the one. So that means you don't get a whole lot out of this thing's waist. So the crunch is just that to the front, then nothing to the back, and this to this side to side. So essentially nothing really. Oh yeah, we've full rotation though, so that's something I guess. Even though they look a little unusual, these are fairly generic front skirting armors. They can flip up like so on ball joints. I think they were attached on the runner. You can snip those apart, get a little bit extra. The side skirts are a little bit unusual. They are on those kind of polycaps that are a ball going to a little rubber peg. But these do actually get you a lot of movement. There's back, forward, and we have up and down as well. So that's pretty good. And around on the back, Turn A has no shame because it has no butt flap whatsoever. Inside the waist here, we've got a little bit of a back and forward swiveling mechanism. We've got a little flap in here for covering up the butthole. And as for those kicks, there's all the way up to the front, so that is pretty normal. There it is all the way out to the back, so a lot as you'd expect with no butt flap. And with those side skirts out of the way, we can get only as far as here before you entirely disjoint the crotch. But hey, it's still attached, so honestly, even though that is sticking out, I think that counts. The knee in here is a double jointed bend. The armor is on the central segment, so that does look quite nice, but doesn't bend an awful lot. However, we do have a quite interesting secondary point of bend here. It honestly doesn't do a whole lot, but it does add a little bit of extra curvature to the leg, as well as make these cool vent segments on the back move like this, so that in itself is pretty cool. The ankle is a little bit limited. There is forward and back. The side to side pivot is inside of everything there, so it is a bit blocked. We do have a toe that drops down and looks pretty cool doing so. So as for the movement on the ground, there it is all the way to the front. That extra bit does give you a little bit more, but it's not a lot. There it is all the way out to the back. Once again, not a whole lot. And as for the side to side pivot, it is a little bit basic, but this knee bend is pretty cool looking because this extra little bend that you get in there. That's kind of cool. So when it comes to the articulation on the Turn A Gundam, you may not be able to get the craziest poses out of this, but what it does have works really well. Honestly, the little bit of articulation it does have, it has them in all the right places, and that mixed with the very solid build makes this quite impressive looking when it is in a pose, so it's pretty good. But anyway, that right there is it for the review, and I have to say that the high grade Turn A Gundam to me is gold tier. Sure, it does drop the ball in some aspects, so I'll get the negative bits out of the way first. There is a lot of stickers in here where I feel there doesn't need to be, but they're not in the worst places, most of which are on the weapons, and some parts on the mobile suit that aren't that noticeable. The articulation could be a little bit better, but that's not the worst complaint when it can still pull off some beautiful poses. But when it comes to the good points about this, the colors are fantastic, the detail is off the charts, It is such a nice, solid little kit, and it looks exactly like it should. So if you're thinking of getting yourself a high-grade Turn A Gundam, I say definitely go for it without a doubt. And I also know that a lot of you guys have been recommending the Master Grade to me, so if I do see it sometime in the future available, I will grab one and make a review of that too. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. And as always, I'll see you next time. Once again, I cannot finish this video right here without thanking each and every one of you guys. Whether you just watch my videos, like them, or support the channel on the channel memberships and over on Patreon. Like Craig Jury, Greg Humphrey, Kaiser721, Tyler Sanders, Caleb Engelhardt, Sean T, and the ambassador for Asymmetric Cat.